We're on.
Okay, all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between Two Teachers for Friday, September 25th. We want to welcome you, and my name is Consuelo Lara.
And I'm Madeline Cronenberg. I'm still here in pandemic times with our other teacher from the past, the teacher from Washington Elementary School in 1918, in the first set of pandemic times, when children went back in. Look at that. They weren't at home, they were in. Yeah. And once again, we are, as always, greeting you from the sacred land of the Chochenyo, Karkin, Ohlone people, the native people for whom we owe everything. And we continue to honor their memory and their land. So we're all still in lockdown, such as it is, although the county of Contra Costa has moved, or is moving, from purple to red, which is a good direction. And people are looking at whether or not what the steps are going to be for reopening, and they've reopened in other cities, and some communities in the nation are opened entirely. I found one thing out about testing. Testing is a big thing, and they're starting to test people who are going to travel now. So that if you want to go on United to Hawaii, they're going to give you a test to take either at the airport before you get on the plane, or so these tests exist. Or you take it within 3 days. You can get it. They have a deal with CVS where you can take a test and then have an app that proves to the Hawaiian government that you've been tested. So then you don't have to go on to a 2 weeks of not being able to do anything but be in isolation for 2 weeks.
Wow.
That starts October 15th.
How about that?
All right. So that's one of the big things. Having these very fast tests is the biggest thing. If everybody had them, right, just like a pregnancy test, if you just did a swab and you could prove every day you didn't have it.
Yes. That would help a lot, wouldn't
that would be the answer, right?
Yeah.
And they're 15-minute tests. So that's sort of what we should just be. Why aren't we just making those?
And doing that along with masks, we could really.
For everybody, if you had those two things, it would be done, right? And the places that have them, it is done. So my son is teaching in New Orleans, and in New Orleans, he can get a test that he gets the result back in 24 hours. So he just does it. He does it every week. He doesn't have to. And in order for him to get the test, he acknowledges that he's in a congregate setting, because in his school, every teacher had to come back and teach in their classroom.
They were required. Wow.
Mm-hmm. The charter school. But the children are starting to come back. First, they all had to come back. Now the children are coming back. And he just felt that, but he's there with all the other teachers.
That's scary.
Right? So he considers that a congregate setting.
Yeah.
Some people don't consider that. His administrators don't consider it a congregate setting. So they haven't told everybody that they should be tested, because he suggested in a faculty meeting that everybody should do this. Everybody should be tested because it's paid for by their health insurance. So there's no reason to not do it.
Yeah.
But he's the only one doing it.
Oh,
so
wow.
This is a very complicated thing. And this is why, people need to have whatever the rules are, they need to be established. He uses a company called Pixel, and he just does it every week. He takes the Pixel test, and then he knows for himself that he's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. To be required to go back. Oh my gosh.
Well, this is the whole thing. This is where there's so many differences throughout the country in terms of how folks are handling it.
And that charter school, are the teachers unionized?
No, there are no unions in the state of Louisiana for teachers.
Wow. Ugh. Okay.
Right. They're trying to start one, but it's got to be. He said there was one school, but they're being challenged. So that's a difficult thing. Now that's the whole idea, is that they're not interested in having unions. They find that not to be productive. So no, he's never been in a union while he's been there. He's been there 10 years now at 3 different schools, but he's never been offered the opportunity to be in a union.
There's no unions.
No.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, so that's school reopening out there. In California, there are a few ways that things have happened. And I want to talk about elections. And we'll talk more about the elections here in West Contra Costa later. But if you live in Patterson Unified, in the school board race there, where they have 7 seats, 2 of the seats that are up have no applicants. There are no candidates. And when that happens, the board now has to go recruit people in those neighborhoods and see if they can find somebody who's willing to serve. And if they can't, then they're just going to have an open seat, I guess. And because if you can't make people do it, right? And so this is one of the things that had come up when folks talk about the consequence of district elections. Sometimes a district area that is carved out is very small. And the folks who are there are, anyway, it's harder to find candidates to run.
Sure.
And and that's the case in Patterson right now.
Wow.
That's the case in Patterson. So we can follow that and see what happens and who gets appointed. But the other thing is that they say they may find a very good candidate who might be somebody who just never wanted to run a campaign and have to go through a campaign. In this case, they're going to fill out an application and maybe be interviewed by the board, and then the board will just vote to appoint them. And that'll be for 2 years. It'll be a 2-year term when they get the appointment. So that's Patterson. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about something we've talked about before here, and that is pods and hubs.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So let's do the San Francisco example first. In San Francisco, at Rooftop School, which is over at Twin Peaks, the principal decided to organize her children into diverse groups. And so the term for grouping, whether you call them pods or hubs or micro schools, I mean, all these words have come up as a result of the pandemic pods. It's a very fluid term, right? What she was trying to do was not reassign teachers or anything like that. What she was trying to do, because her school is very diverse, she wanted to be sure that as the children organized themselves into groups, that the groups themselves would be diverse, as opposed to not being diverse, which might happen otherwise. She was really trying to continue her value of diversity in her classrooms and in her school. And apparently there's an organization in San Francisco that has been following this, and they did a FOIA request for information on how it was coming along. And the emails that they got from their request showed that the district folks did not want her to organize this. And even though maybe some other districts, they are putting hubs together, but they didn't want her to do it, even though she was doing it specifically to continue the value of diversity. That was her whole purpose. So it becomes a very complicated conversation. I've posted it on the Trello board if you want to read the article. I think it's an interesting look into how this is such a new issue for us in education and in teaching. And so when we're looking at how you can best support families, which is really what this is about, how do you best support families at this time? It's different than before, right? And when you would look before at putting a classroom together because of the strengths of each of the children in the classroom, now their classroom is on a screen. And so the things that you were looking at, the characteristics of the kids you have to add to that their situation at home and who's with them and who's taking care of them. So that brings us to Glendale. So Glendale has taken up a different approach. And in Glendale, they have addressed childcare, and they're using the term learning, no, not learning. They're using the term technology hubs, not learning hubs, because learning hubs are looked at differently. They presume that you have a teacher in the classroom. Glendale doesn't have a teacher in the classroom, but they opened up all their schools, which of course have Wi-Fi, that have their, will have children come in who will sit distance, so they're in cohorts of 12, so they're only using half the desks in the classroom. They're bringing in their food services people, and the classroom is not run by the certificated teacher of that classroom. The children are still on the Chromebooks that connected to the classroom teacher that they're assigned to. But there is an adult in the room who is there to assist them and to monitor them for the day. So what they are providing is childcare. And on their website, you have, in order to get to the information that this even exists, you have to click on childcare, not on distance learning, not on other things, it's childcare.
Yeah.
But there it is. And they've opened all their schools and all their classrooms this way. Okay. So they are providing for their families what other families, and certainly families in our community, are only accessing if they organize it themselves and go from family to family, hire a babysitter to watch the kids when they're together while somebody goes to work, or go to the city of El Cerrito, which has its own, but they're certainly not inexpensive, and other, whatever other access is there.
I think it's important to make a difference, although they're being interchangeable. What's the difference between a pod and a hub? In my mind, the pods have been forming like little groups, like families come together, teams come together, people for a purpose. And whereas the hub is a place where you can go. So far, that seems to be the definitions between the two.
The hub is, so the pod is the group, and the group can stay together and go from place to place. That's sort of, you're right. I think that's how it's evolved, because when they've talked about the family pods, they'll say the families will go from one house to another.
Yeah.
Possibly.
They go on vacation together. I've heard that. They do things together because they're a little pod. So, and that works, and they could share resources and they can take turns. And then there's not so much stress on, one family to try to do everything. And so that's why, and not only families have the resources to do that, and that's why the hubs are so important for those families without the resources, and having those hubs available, as many as we can. And if it means using some of the schools, and
I mean, obviously there's precedent here, right? Sure. In West Contra Costa, they you discussed it the other night, right? That there is the equivalent of a hub. It is a hub, I would say. It's an after-school program.
Yeah.
Which means, really what they are childcare. They are childcare.
It's childcare. That's the purpose of it, really.
That's it. It's not a replacement for school, because you are still going to school. You're bringing your school with you to childcare. You're bringing your Chromebook, and you're doing it somewhere where you have access.
Right. And I just have to say, as a school board member, I would caution, we got to go in baby steps here. There's no way you're going to go, okay, we're going to open a dozen. No. We do one, then we do two, and then we just take our time on this. We can't rush, because this is people's health. If it works, okay, let's go the next level and the next level. Assist phasing in of it. So,
and I think that the other thing is to see who else has modeled themselves on this. These folks, it occurs to me that the Glendale community made an early commitment to do this, right? And they have done it, and so people can learn from them. And I'm sure that we're not the first people talking about this, right? So because
the Glendale information and the San Francisco, you have that on Trello?
It's all on Trello.
I'm gonna pass
under 92520.
9:25. Okay, because I want to pass that on to other people who could use that.
Right, right. It's all worth looking at, because especially if we're saying, look, this is going to be a long time before we come back as we want to. We're going to be fully back as we were in February. Then we really need to take a long, hard look about how to support our families.
It just feels like everything is an experiment.
Yes.
So let's be careful. Let's test it.
No, it is. It is. And it's an experiment. We all had to go do a deep dive to get into it, right?
Yeah. And luckily there's some people out there testing that we can use,
right.
learn from.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, great.
All right. So then we are actually up to the local stories, and that's the community hub. That's what I called it on here, because I put the link into Bright Futures. And you can talk about the community hub.
Yes.
That is in West Contra Costa.
Right. Bright Futures. And they've been open, and they've been serving kids, and they do have childcare. And so they have been in talks, meeting with each other. And so, this really is like a partnership or a cooperative or whatever. It's with all of the communities. And so they have opened what they're calling a hub.
And they have been historically an after-school provider, a child care provider to the district. I mean, that's how they didn't just come from nowhere. And they were providing child care for essential workers, is my understanding.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, at this point, I know that the district has been looking for places to open some hubs. I think the superintendent mentioned the Latina Center, and he may have mentioned other places that have offered space as well. But that it was also brought up the possibility of using schools as well for these hubs. So that's really, we're going to have a lot more discussion about them and about what they will look like, because it's in the exploration phase at this point of what these hubs are, what they're going to do, and it's about a childcare. So Bright Futures is our first one, and we're going to see how that one goes. I think it's a good place to start, and it's all going to be about collaborating with our cities, with our community-based organizations. And what's great is I hear people always say, how can we help the district? This is coming from the cities, from the school, CBOs. How can we help? And this is one. Help to create those hubs and get us those spaces. So a little bit at a time, we're going at it. So that was it for the Bright Futures. So they set aside the funding for that as well. So that was a decision we made. And
that'll be for what, 94 children?
Yes, I believe so.
Right, and that program exists in a former school building, a closed school. That's where she is. So that's why she's able to provide that.
Yes. So let me see. That was about that one. And shall we go on to what else? Other news from the board meeting was that the budget situation looks a lot better. And we got this great letter from the county saying we're on the right track. It looks like we're good for this year. We're okay for next year, but that the third year, it's risky. And we got to be careful, because we could go back to having a big deficit, and what I hear them saying is it's in management and staying the course of what we're doing, not going up, making any big changes or getting. And I have to commend, Tony Wald, of course, Dr. Wald, and our leadership, in getting us in this right direction. And who knows, there may even be a surplus. But it's like you said, there's a lot of expenses we don't have now.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic.
Right. And then there were reimbursements from the CARES Act that covered things that we thought maybe we'd have to pay for ourselves, right? So there's all of that.
Yeah. So there's all that, and that does make sense. And great things are going on. We've got now the African American office. They've got their director and then their staff. And didn't McGee and is it Clark? Didn't they work together at Dijon? So
Cable.
Cable.
Coble.
Yeah. Coble.
Yeah, I think it's that's his name. But yeah, he was at he's at Richmond High.
Oh, because I remember there was a time when he was there, because I remember we visited and he was the full service community schools director of that.
Yes.
So it sounds like a great team. Sounds like
No, they are. They are. And also, the thing that they're putting together is the Black Educator Network. I think that is really important thing.
Yes.
And Mr. McGee, maybe someday we will get him on here and get him to talk about his vision for that, for his office. And I know he has a vision to bring, to make sure there's diversity in among teachers. Certainly we've tried to do that with the Education Academy. All of that is important steps forward, but he is an active founder of the Black Educator Network.
And what they're doing already is the professional development that's going
exactly.
on. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. So that's going full swing. And then that's happening on Fridays, what they're calling Wellness Fridays. So
right now.
Right now, yeah, the priority is a social emotional well-being of our district. You know, it's funny to hear people saying, you know, we're in trauma, we're experiencing trauma. Well, the person you're talking to is probably experiencing trauma. We're all in trauma right now. So we're all in this together for sure. But anyway, that was a real positive thing, the professional development, not only in that area, but in individualized instruction, differentiation of instruction, project-based learning. I mean, the professional development is just, you know, it's.
And I was looking at the slide that you shared where 2,000 staff participated in it last week.
Yeah.
And that's one of the gifts really from being able to do things on Zoom. I mean, there are really things that are going to come out of this where people are going to be able to do professional development, I think, differently than we've done it before and have at least access to more.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's really great. So there was a lot of good news at the board meeting. We're moving along. Let's see, what else? We have to talk about this superintendent search committee, subcommittee has been formed. This board, well, 3 people on this board seem to think they should start the search for a new superintendent, even though, you know, we're going to have a whole new board, probably almost 4 out of 5 new board members. And it makes sense logically to almost everybody except those 3 people that should be the job of the new board. And kind of like the new president should be able to pick the Supreme Court judge, kind of the same thing.
Kind of like that.
Kind of like that. And as we watch this rush to get the search firm and make a subcommittee, and by the way, I volunteered to be on that, but for some reason I wasn't chosen. I don't know why that was. So they don't want a whole lot of transparency. That's what I think on that. So they're keeping it pretty close. And what I'm concerned about, I'm always vocal about this, the effect or the influence of the charter school investors and all of that money, because it's too much. It's, you know, we're so used to, we don't see corruption anymore. If you have vendors, you know, buying seats on the school board, people, I don't care if it's legal, it's unethical, it's corrupt. So anyway, that's a whole other thing. So this superintendent his contract is up at the end of this school year, but this new board could say, look at the distance learning, look at the budget, look at these things. We need this guy to stay for a while longer. They could, and then that throws that all out. And then we could start focusing, if we didn't have that, we could be really focusing on the needs of our kids and the hubs and the pods but no, we got to take all this time for this thing that does not have to happen. And quite honestly, I really feel like there's people behind it. kind of pulling the strings and demanding this to happen. It doesn't have to be this way. I'm just very suspicious of it all. And so we'll see where it goes. But it is a power grab, as it was described, really. Just want to flex your power. But the good news is our superintendent is smart enough, he's professional enough, he's focused enough. He's going to continue working for our children and for our community. He's just like, he's the guy in a crisis. He's the one you want.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very good.
And I think, don't they say in a time of crisis, the real you comes out, who you really are?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it. I'm just really proud of the work that he's doing. So there's that. And then let's talk about the elections a little bit coming up. As we know that, campaign finance. Let's talk about that for a minute, because it's getting kind of ridiculous. We know that there's this organization called Go Public Schools Advocates, but there's also related cousins to those organizations. It's kind of like a shell game. Where did I put the money? Where am I putting the money? You create a new organization, you give them a whole bunch of money, and then they become a slush fund to buy seats on a school board, a district or a county, and then they become people that will make decisions when it comes to vendors, when it comes to charter schools, contracts. They will make the kind of decisions that those people who invested the money want you to make. So they make more money. It's all about making money. That really is the bottom line. And some of the big Go Public, and now there's a new organization called, I just wrote it down, West County Kids Can, I believe. West Kids Can. So look for that one. But giving big chunks of money, like $10,000 a bundle, to certain candidates that they want.
Well, there are two big contributions to West County Kids Can that were made available in the. We have laws that require people to have to report how much money is being given, so that the public can know. And the only way the public knows is if they go and look it up. But the folks that have gone and looked this particular set of donations up have found, and I am putting this also in the Trello, that Mr. Nahas, who is a real estate investor from Lafayette, has put in $75,000 to West County Kids Can. And Mr. Chamberlain, Stephen Chamberlain, who's retired and from Point Richmond and is the funder for Education Matters, but also is the landlord for the charter schools that are up at Hilltop. He has put in $62,500 so far.
Yeah, and that organization then can contribute that
will
money.
Donate or run their own ads. They've run their own websites. They will. This is a political organization solely existing to elect candidates that they have chosen.
Yeah. So they'll send bright, shiny, beautiful, pretty little pictures to everybody's house over and over and over again till you're inundated, because they know marketing. They know their marketing and how to do.
Right. The money is spent on communication companies and on mailers.
Yeah, on mailers. That's it. You'll get inundated with them, and then your seat gets bought for you. Kind of like the 2 seats that are there right now were bought for them, basically.
And it's also happening in Oakland, right? Which is the other place that Go Public Schools Oakland exists, right? Go came from Greater Oakland. That's where GO came from. And they're certainly acting there. And I'm sure a lot of this money is going against Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes. And also Mr. Davis, he mentioned like $250,000 has been put out against, through Go.
With this money, with this kind of money, right?
This kind of money.
This particular one, these two contributions are just in this district because these two vendors are investors in our district. But in Oakland, there are many other folks that have invested in different things in technology and other areas where they are able to get their funds from, right? Because what ultimately happens is that each of these, each time you open a charter school, there's money available to them, and they spend money and they make choices. And of course, the school district doesn't make any of the choices, so they make the choices as to who their landlords are. They make remember, they make the choice of the percentage they want to charge for administrative fee, which can be up to 15-17% off the top. There are a lot of financial choices that are made, and for folks who want to have that as an opportunity for a living, right, to how they're going to make their money, that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
So they're still doing it. I mean, for anybody, there were a lot of victories in the legislature regarding limitations on the growth of charter schools, but in no way should we presume that has had put a damper on the Charter Schools Association and their interest in continuing to be part of the political process, because they are very much alive and well and part of the political process.
Yeah, yeah. And the influence on schools and school elections, that's the problem there. The elected board should be elected by the community based on the person's experience, their expertise, their connections with the community, not with how much money they spent. That's just, it's not right. It's, and so it becomes a matter of values and ethics, and a school, we need to have a higher level of those ethics and values. And we need to say, no, we are not going to allow this interaction with those organizations who do that. If you're a campaign, elections, you go do that over there. You don't have anything to do with public schools. We've got to create, like a firewall, some kind of separation.
Well, this is all about campaign finance. I mean, so really in the end, there needs to be a national a change in how campaigns are financed. And there are a lot of different strategies, and we can put some things in here about them, but that really is what this is about.
The Clean Money Campaign.
Clean Money Campaign.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I just feel like we need to say.
People need to pay attention to who paid for the flyer that's in front of you.
Yeah. So we're going to tell you every week, how much money Chamberlain is spending on the school board, how much Nahas is spending on the school board. We'll let you know.
Yeah, and anybody else who pops up.
Anybody else. Yeah, and I'll tell you how much money I got.
Which is also public. No, I mean, all of these numbers are public. Your numbers are as public as anybody else's numbers, right? That's why we're able to find them.
Yes, yes.
Right? People have to file public reports.
That's right.
That's what everyone needs to know. And I'll put the link in to where all the reports are. All you need to do is do your search yourself, because the truth is, we're looking at the truth here.
Right. And we want to tell you about the big money that's spent. That's the key. So we're going to continue.
Exactly.
All right.
So let me say something about big money here. I've put a couple of links in here. One is to a document called The Learning Generation. And it just simply clears up the fact that education spending, you can prove the fact that if you spend more on education, your children learn more. This is not hard to figure out, but in case everybody else, there is a whole big set of data around it. So I have a link to that. And the second one is an article that was put out, I think it's Pedro Noguera, and it's called Put Up or Shut Up, a $1 trillion investment to help kids in poverty. And he's just saying, and he's saying this to really, I think, to the Biden campaign more than to anybody else. But that is what is needed. You're able to do $1 trillion to, save an airline industry. The people who need the $1 trillion are the children of America.
Yep.
It's our children who need the $1 million. And he's got, the article is in here. You can certainly take a look at it. He's talking about the same kinds of things we've talked about before, but talking about it is one thing. You have to fund it. You just have to fund it. So when you're talking about community schools, you're talking about additional support so that classrooms can be smaller. You talk about all of the kinds of additional supports that children in poverty need, and the supports that all our children need. We do not invest in education the way the other countries do. We simply do not. Right? There are countries that have national child care programs. So they didn't have any of these issues around hubs because they have national child care. It's done. It's part of their value system.
True.
We don't have that.
Right?
But it's only because we haven't chosen to have it. We haven't chosen to elect people who will move it forward. Right? So it's on us. It's not on them. And it is on us to elevate the issues.
Well, we do elect people we think are going to do that, but
then there's that.
Get there, they don't, and a lot of that has to do with money,
with campaign finance.
Yep, goes back to that again.
It goes back to that. So that's why this is an article that's worth your time. Good. The other one I put in here, I should put this up at the top. I found something online from some families that are organizing themselves. And this is yet another kind of a hub. This one is with a group called Day Prep. Day Prep is, first of all, not for people who don't want to spend a lot of money. You need a lot of money to do Day Prep. But what Day Prep is, it's sort of like a virtual school. What they're doing is they're hiring teachers, and the teachers will Zoom into your family. I can't do this now.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I'll be right back. Now I'm back.
Okay.
The teachers will Zoom into your family and teach. It's homeschooling, and you can have your pod, and they will provide the teachers for your pod. That's basically what they're doing. But the expense is if you have for 3 hours a day for 6 or more children, it's $12,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. These folks are out of La Jolla.
Oh, well, La Jolla.
But I just point them out because there they are. So somebody has found this business opportunity. And you know what they want to do? What they really want to do is pull the children out of the La Jolla school district.
Oh my.
Because what they would like to do is keep that going. Have Day Prep be, and I'm sure they'll find a place for them to go, but it's a way to bring children into what ultimately then is like an independent private school.
Yeah, basically.
Right? Right? It's like the micro schools, but they're an example, and I just wanted to, say, and if you were going to have, and that was 3 hours a day. That was 3 hours a day for $12,000. For if you only had one child, now this is, if you had one child and you want this child to be on Zoom with the teacher 5 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
That teacher is going to get $52,500.
The teacher is going to get that.
Well, the company is going to get that.
The company will get that.
Day Prep, the Day Prep people will get that. This is what they're charging. And they're calling them pods, AM pods and PM pods. They have had to close their AM pods because they're fully subscribed. So all they have left are PM pods. So you're going to have to live with that.
Money-making venture. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So we know that education is a business.
We do.
Right. That's just an angle of the business we haven't talked about before. So I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh.
No, I don't want to do that. All right, we've done our privatization one. The other ones I wanted to mention an update. Mr. Thurman, our superintendent, has continued his End Hate initiative this week. So that's a really powerful program, and he has grant programs out to schools and districts throughout the state to come up with ideas to end hate, right? And it's just sort of a subset of his ethnic studies work. I have the Take Action on here, and that's just once again to try to have Social Security fairness. That's just on here forever until someday
So they
do that.
do the right thing for that.
Yeah. And then shout outs. I have some shout outs too, some folks. The first one is, so my son, who I spoke about earlier, I have a shout out to him because he became a poll worker.
Oh, wow.
So he is on election day going to be managing a poll in New Orleans. So he had to go to the training. He also could have done more, but he has to teach every day. He has to actually show up at that classroom. But he's got a card and he's had his poll worker training. And I think to the extent that people can do it, we do need more and more poll workers across the country.
Yeah.
Right? And certainly in here where we live in Contra Costa County, they need them. So I just wanted to give a pitch for poll workers. I wanted to give a salute to Dr. Brian Reese, who's the new chancellor of Contra Costa College.
Yes, yes. Shout out to him for sure.
Shout out to him. So I have his picture there, plus his YouTube. He has a really great YouTube from TEDx Temecula. So
Yeah.
if you want to look at that, you'll see who we're getting. I'm very impressed. I think it's going to be a really good thing to have him at the college.
Yes.
And last night they had the Teachers of the Year. I guess it was the virtual celebration. So I know one of them who I know, and I know there was more than one from the district, but the one that I'm going to salute this week, and we can salute the others as well, is Jesus Galindo.
Oh, yeah.
Of Lincoln. He is one who was acknowledged last night for his extraordinary work as a teacher.
That's great. That's great.
So that's my shout outs.
Okay. Well, I guess I have a couple. I really liked Idrissa Latier when she came to the board meeting, made some comments about bright futures and the community. So I just appreciated her honesty coming to the board. And I want to shout out to my son, Carlos. He's just doing a great job being my, working with me, my campaign. He steps up every time. And, I really do have a shout out for Mr. Duffy. I mean, he's accomplished something really pretty great with the budget. That was the thing that everybody, was the most reacting to. And so something got done with that. So shout out to him for sure. And so that's it for me. And are we ready for our joke?
We're ready for our joke.
Okay, again, from Carlos. He also is our joke
He's
writer.
our comedy writer.
Comedy writer as well. Okay, so tell me, Madeline, why did the boy vote for the bicycle?
I don't know, Consuelo. Why did the boy vote for the bicycle?
Oh, because he liked how he spoke.
Okay.
There we go.
Once again, we'll see you here next week on Between Two Teachers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.